This podcast is in partnership with Fill Your Boots. My mate Sean Phelan has been matching clubs with players and players with clubs for over 6 years to help get grassroots rugby games played. Head on over to fybrugby.com to register yourself or your club to help grow the game. You'll also be part of the Rugby Social Network and enjoy tons of resources, special deals and FYB TV. Go register at fybrugby.com today.
What actually happened was, on the first take, we timed it perfectly. He runs through, I tackle him into the car, my arm goes through the window.
Wow.
There's a brief pause, as I think I've actually hurt him. Like he let out a big ugh. And,
not surprised.
Yeah. And the window shatters. And my mind, I'm like, don't stare at the camera. Do not stare at the camera. I see the cameraman look at me going, wow.
Hello amateurs, welcome to episode 89 of the Amateur Rugby Podcast, here to help soothe your Sunday morning hangover with some wonderful rugby chat about the grassroots of the game. I'm your host Tim, and today I'm in Flores, Indonesia, where yesterday I went out for my first proper run since the Great Rugby Run. It was a gentle 12-miler, but it had me sweating buckets in the tropical heat. It was great to get moving again after a number of weeks off. The Great Rugby Run is taking final donations before I wrap it up on the 1st of December, when I will pass over the funds to the My Name's Doddy Foundation. Please see thegreatruggerrun.org if you'd like to donate. Apologies about last week's episode. There was some kind of glitch in the matrix when I uploaded the file and it wasn't available for download until Thursday. Go and download it now if you missed out. There were chats with two fantastic blokes, Keith Wallace from Haddington and Jimmy Samuel from Bannockburn. And I'd love to hear your feedback on that episode and the whole of the Stories From series. You can contact me on Twitter at AMRugbyPodcast or email to hello@amateurrugbypodcast.com. But my guest this week is my former Esher Rugby teammate, Nigerian international and good friend, Jnr Harrison. This interview was recorded in August of 2022 and we talked about Junior's start in adult rugby with London Nigerians, the sevens and beach rugby circuits, naked lunches, true story, and appearing in Rugby TV adverts. We then moved on to talk about how Junior got his first contract to play rugby, his incredible ability to stack on mass, and the injuries that blighted a portion of his career. Lastly, we talked about his time playing for the Nigerian national side, how he's trying to bring through the next generation, and his transition into a rugby fan with a season ticket at Saracens. Junior always has a sense of fun and mischievousness bubbling away, which I think comes through in this deep and often funny conversation. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Please welcome Esher Jnr Harrison. Jnr Harrison, welcome to the Amateur Rugby Podcast.
Glad to be here.
Really good to see you. Now, I want to start this conversation by describing how the first time I ever saw you, and I saw you through a video camera. So I was videoing a game for Old Coffeeans against London Nigerians.
Oh, Jesus.
When you were playing on the wing and I was injured, so I was videoing the game. And I'd just like to hear a little bit about the Linford Christie Stadium and some time at London Nigerians.
Yeah, so funny story. That my intro to men's rugby was obviously London Nigerian. I only started there because my sister went to uni with a lot of the guys. So I was still at uni and I hadn't moved to London yet. So she went away to meet people, join the rugby club. So I'm Nigerian. Why not? Seemed like a good idea.
Makes sense.
Went along to pre-season. I'd never done one before, not a real one. Almost got killed. But obviously, because I was going back and forth to Bristol every weekend, I couldn't play for the first team, which I just joined. Didn't make any sense. So I ended up playing for the seconds. And obviously, the pack back then was pretty big for the ones and twos. So I ended up either playing 12 or on the wing. And what can you say? I was 6'7", I was probably still about a 12, 500 metre runner. And yeah, it just seemed the right place to be.
What kind of weight were you pushing those days as well?
I'll be honest, I didn't really weigh myself a lot back then. I don't think I weighed myself when I left school till probably well after, probably till I joined Staines. I didn't know how much I weighed throughout uni, but I was probably touching about 25, 26 stone back then.
So opposite you on the wing that day was a former guest on the podcast, a good friend of mine, Andy Muldoon. And he was terrified, I think is a fair description. Just tell me, so that was your first real sort of introduction to rugby, was playing for London Nigerians? Yeah,
so I played at school, and I also did a lot of other sports, played cricket, athletics, and played tennis as well. And my last summer at school, I'd had a particularly tough year into sports-wise. And I decided that I needed a break from rugby. I think I hyperextended my elbow playing a sevens tournament. And I went, I'm done. That's it for me. I played football for my first year of uni. Tried out for the football team again. The second year got into the 2s or 3s, and then my housemate at the time didn't get in, but he was my chauffeur as well. So I just basically had a year off everything. And I think that's when I decided that things got a bit excessive, and I needed something to do in my third year, which got back into rugby again. So I played for the uni at UE, and then I joined London Nigerian in London as well. And yeah, it was interesting because it was the old school ways that people will never understand what that's like now. But I was sort of happy to have joined, tagged on the end of it, where a lot of things happened that we can't talk about.
Not terrible things, I hope.
I was only 20. I cannot even. I wasn't there.
Right. Okay, so we'll move on from London Nigerians. And you mentioned there about playing sevens. Now, I think that's something you've done quite a bit of. Tell me about the sevens experience for you, and some of the favourite tournaments or times.
Started at school, obviously playing in the Roslyn Park sevens. Weirdly, my experience with sevens at that time was we had more forwards than we had backs. We had one person who could run the 100 and sub 11. Apart from that, everyone else, I was the next quickest person in that team, so it wasn't exactly, we bust through the middle, we didn't go around the outside. But then I think it was more social events that kind of kept in. So I had a few mates who were Harrow, who put a team together, and we ended up playing a few tournaments on the circuit, and we did okay, and we just kept going along. You meet people along the way. Next thing I know, I've ended up playing for God knows different teams, Susie's, kind of touched a bit with one of the samurai sides. Am I forgetting? Flare Bears, that was quite a big one. But yeah, and obviously that took along to the beach rugby as well, which was really good fun out in Italy. Playing on the beach in mid 30-degree weather sounds like hell, but when you finish playing and jump in the ocean afterwards, it's a bit special. So
yeah, I can imagine the jumping in the ocean afterwards is amazing, but playing on sand in that heat, how big was the pitch when you're playing beach rugby?
It felt like the same size as maybe a volleyball court. It wasn't that big.
Okay.
But people don't realise is obviously it's not even. You can't run flat out on sand.
Yeah.
And it's like when you think you've made a clean break, you can get tripped up by dirt and you look like an idiot in front of a massive crowd of people. So it's hard work, and it's continuous. It's not continuous, because if you get tackled or held, it's a turnover. So
oh, really?
Yeah. You have maybe 2 or 3 seconds to offload the ball. So it's tiring. And the best thing to do if you score, just come off. So because it's rolling, you just tap and go again. So yeah, brutal.
How long were the games?
I want to say it felt like 2 hours, but in actual fact, it's probably about 10 minutes.
Right.
It's 10 minutes. It was continuous, 10 minutes, and then they don't have, it's not a knockout tournament. I think, I have to remember, there were 12 teams, and you keep playing a group stage, and then it goes into another pool stage, and then basically it's like, 12th plays 11th, and so you have an actual placing at the end, so everyone gets something at the end of the day. It's all about participation involvement, so it's actually a really good weekend.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. Was that did you do that once, or is it lots of times?
I did 2 years. I think one of the Flair Bears, and I don't know how it happened. I think obviously I made a bit of a name for myself. I think I was called the Black Tower. Running through, and then I didn't realise what was going on, so I heard people chanting as we were playing. I think just for the fans, I got given player of the tournament. I think it was more for a commercial thing. It was quite good.
But there were a couple of incredible photos I seem to remember from around about that time. One of you diving into the corner, I think, ridiculously high, and there was a tackle. I think this might have been in sevens, where you basically had somebody ready to go into a tombstone.
I'll come back to that one. The beach one. So there are loads of professional photographers all around, and all up in their portfolios they go along, and it's all about promoting, because that was one of the first years that I was on, and it was all about promoting the event, and then ending up being the beach series, the beach 5 series, and all the photographers were like, listen, just when you score, do something ridiculous. I want as big as possible. And I said to one of the ladies, okay, I'm going to score in that corner today. If you're there and I see you, I'll give you the look. I'm going as high as I can. It looked great. I think it's a size 3 or size 4 ball, so it's like I'm holding a kid's ball and flying through the air. But if you don't realise, it looks great on photo. And only a few people know the truth. When I landed, I was winded for a good 5 minutes afterwards. Absolutely rock solid. I landed on it. It's ridiculous. Going back to what looks like a power slam, that was my first outing to Amsterdam for what was originally the Stallions Sevens, but the precursor to Nigeria Sevens. And obviously it was a mixture of guys I played for London Nigerian, and obviously people all over, I think like Dockers, Dave Akalou and that lot. And we played the home team, actually. It was at ASC Amsterdam. And I don't know if I'd made the tackle. Someone made a tackle. Obviously, I'd gone down to Jackal, because for some reason I'm always first man there, because I don't want to make any tackles anyway. And I've gone to pick up the ball, but he's still holding on to it. So I don't know if you see the photo. If you see the photo, I've got the ball in my hand, but so is he.
Right.
So I've picked up the ball, and he's come up with it. He's in the air. He's not letting go. I'm not letting go. Everyone's just standing around. What's happening? What do we do now? No one can latch on, because it's not. He hasn't called maul. He's actually called release to him. And then after maybe what felt like 15 seconds of just him in the air, and then ref blowing the whistle, like, well, got to stop it there, and giving me the penalty. So yeah,
I mean, you say he was in the air. His feet were above your head. Yeah.
So yeah, it looks like a power slam, but it was just the perfect jackal.
It was amazing. It was one of my favourite photos in a rugby game of all time, and we'll try and find it for the show notes. So, anything else about the sevens? Any other seven stories or anything?
There's a few. Obviously, you got the Susie's trips to Kinsale, which obviously everyone knows the rumour about the Harry Potter dinner or Harry Potter lunch.
I don't.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got to experience this one. So it's honestly, the weekend is great. Lars and Holmesy take you out to, we fly into Cork, we all get down to Kinsale, put us up in a B&B for the weekend. And then the treat for the first day is we all go into this big hall for lunch, thinking like, they'll get to know everyone, the squads, 2 squads there. But then when you walk into the front room, you realize we've got the whole restaurant to ourselves. And it's like, okay, can you just leave your clothes on the side here, please? I'm like, what? It's like, yes, take off your clothes and leave them here. I'm like, okay, I realise this is completely naked dinner. Honestly, nothing can bring a squad together than just sitting there naked, just eating and just laughing, drinking and bonding and bonding, not bondage, except that. But yeah, it's just a great equaliser. I hope it still happens today, but I don't know if you can get away with it.
No, I think times are changing in lots of ways, aren't they? I think it has to be, things like that maybe behind closed doors nowadays, certainly not in public restaurants. Um, now, something I've done, and I know you've done as well, is doing TV adverts for rugby. I've done a couple. I did one with a McDonald's advert where I was a coach, stood with my arms folded, and I was in an O2 advert as well when I recorded it. Twickenham, and they were both really good fun. I loved them, but I'd love to hear, because I know you've been in a few as well, so I'd love to hear your experiences of your adverts that you've done.
I got quite lucky, so I think, have I done 2 or 3? I'm gonna say 2 for now. But they're all through, I think they're called Purple Productions. But when one of the guys, when I was at Staines, they knew some people looking for rugby extras to do a few adverts, and most of the stuff they did was Sky Sports, and the biggest one was the road to Twickenham. So it was the opening weekend of the Premiership. It was a double header at Twickenham, and he essentially got given all the different kits of all the clubs in the Premiership, and it was kind of a recreation of one that had been on a few years before. Lawrence Delalio, I remember Paul Wilson being there as well, and it was about getting the ball from all through London. Go through the city, went through the West End, and a few other places. I think their original one they had on the rooftop, but this one started at Paddington, and it's running through the streets of London. You had Ben Foden kicking it across. We had a line out to catch the ball. Joe Simpson running over taxis and everything. It was ridiculous. And then the big piece that some people remember is I had to tackle the stuntman into the car. It was all supposed to be like, it was going to be like an added oomph noise into it. And it was supposed to, there was a camera in the car. And it's supposed to capture, because I obviously had my dreads at the time, it's supposed to capture my hair flying around and me hitting him into his back, hitting the window, and then I'm supposed to turn away and just carry on playing. What actually happened was, on the first take, we timed it perfectly. He runs through, I tackle him into the car, my arm goes through the window.
Wow.
There's a brief pause, as I think I've actually hurt him. Like he let out a big and
not surprised.
Yeah. And the window shatters, and my mind, I'm like, don't stare at the camera. Do not stare at the camera. I see the cameraman look at me going, wow. And then I just turn around and go. You see my hair's all over the place just as I flip around and go. So they couldn't use the bit from inside the car because of the little pause. But also we couldn't redo it because I shattered the window. And then the worst thing about it was, so I didn't realise at the time, but I had slightly cut my arm putting it through the glass. And obviously we couldn't, for continuation, we couldn't band it up straight away. We had to do a little bit more filming. So imagine in the middle of the city, like running around, a little bit of blood trickling down my arm. But we were going on pre-season to Esher the next day. And because I just got a new passport, so I lost my previous one. And I remember having to bandage up my arm and like just hoping that it would just not trickle anyway and just hide it. And I think I wore a long sleeve shirt because we were given our stash, and I wore the jumper over the top the first day, just hoping that no one would see like the slight slit down my arm. Ask what it was, because it's not a great way to start a pre-season tour.
Not ideal. No. Sorry, coach, I can't train. Why? Well,
come on.
Yeah. Now, there's a couple of things there. One, I used to do a job where we had to break car windows on a fairly regular basis. It's not an easy thing to do. I just want to put that out there. It's not straightforward. So you must have hit him so hard, or
he was a stunt man. It was all him. I can't claim anything. I'm trying to think. And then the other one, it was just when Amlin Insurance sponsored the Premiership as well. We just did a couple of sort of moves going up and down the pitch, down the old Brunel grounds around there. That one was just, I think before every game, they had the sponsored by Amlin. So every now and then you see that was my leg, that was my arm, that was it. But you never saw the whole thing, except for Bichet. Bichet got into everything. So
Yeah, but you know it was you.
Yeah, I know. That's all that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned about Esher there. So that was when we kind of met really for the first time, was playing for Esher, which was a great time. But tell me about how you came to the club. How did you arrive there?
So it goes back to London Nigeria days. So obviously I had a few years there while I was at uni, and then I moved back to London actually I lived in Cornwall for a bit. I was still coming up every weekend to play. I just wanted to go into the first team. So I was playing, living in Cornwall and getting a train up on a Friday night, playing and getting back on Sundays.
Well, that is some commitment.
Yeah. It's a whole different story. I was a friend of mine, his family do TV shows. His dad is a presenter on TV, and they had this whole project to, what was it? We were doing up old derelict farmhouse, but doing it in an eco-friendly way. It's on BBC Two. It's called It's Not Easy Being Green. So I was living down there, helping out, just being a farmhand essentially for a year, and just helping out every kid. But I wanted a gap year after uni. And so while I was doing that during the week, then the weekends I was playing for London Nigerian, and then to and fro. And then I think it was the summer after I sort of came back, had a full season with them. I was feeling okay. I got into the senior Middlesex side, and that's when I got an offer from Staines. I remember meeting at a pub. I want to say I was in Hounslow, I can't remember. I remember I had to get the Piccadilly line somewhere close to Heathrow. It took me ages to get there. So this is like the funny story for me. This one I find it hilarious. So I met Bob Lawless and Eddie Jones down this pub. So I was quite naive to everything, because the whole boarding school thing, I hadn't had any exposure to any kind of grown up conversations about rugby. I'd never thought about playing professionally in any way. It was my parents was drummed in education first in some way, work that one out, have a job, and then you do whatever you want on the side. And then I remember sitting there with Bob and Eddie talking about what they wanted to do for the season, the way they saw me playing. They watched me, I played against them, and how they thought my game could progress. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I wonder how much the membership fees are. Because the London Nigerian, I was a student, so I was paying £40 a month, but the normal fees were 80 to 90 for a month, which is quite a lot when you think about it. So I'm thinking, oh God, I wonder how much the subs are. And then Bob goes, so we're going to pay you this much a week to play for us. And I remember the lump in my throat. I was like, so what? But I didn't say complete poker face. Just kept it like, wow, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to think about it. I'll come back to you. Yeah, I ran home, and my parents were over at the time, and oh my God, you'll never guess what's happened. And yeah, the rest was history. I signed there for a year.
So you had no idea that they were gonna.
I had no idea they were going to offer me a contract.
Did you know they pay players generally?
No, I didn't.
Didn't even know that. Okay.
I was barely aware of the fact the game was professional at the time. It wasn't that. I didn't really watch much rugby outside of playing it. If I'm honest about that, didn't have the time for it. I was a football fan, still am, and it never occurred to me the fact that you could get paid for it. Never. Ended up there. Had a good season. I think we came second. We came first, and we ended up losing the playoff to Jersey. This was the old London 1, which would now be National 3, maybe? Or was the other way around?
Something like that.
Something
it's all
like
just
that.
rearranged.
All rearranged, yeah. So there, we were in the same league across from Jersey back then. And I remember the playoff final was over there. And it was really, I would say it was close. Obviously, they had a very strong squad, which is on the way up. And we just had a good weekend. We did. And I think I sprained my ankle towards the end of the game. And I was hobbling around. It was swollen up completely. And the reason that lays the foundation to the next story is because after that, I think I still with my sprained ankle, I managed to play for the county as well, for Middlesex, and I don't think that's the year we got to the final. Off the back of that is when I had my first contact with Esher. And I think because I'd scored from second row, I scored 26 tries that season.
That's not normal.
Apparently. As the hooker and Steph and I were tied for the most tries in the club at the time. Obviously, he was just scoring off driving mauls and in the 5. Yeah. Mine were all from 30 yards out. Because I was thinking I had the freedom to play like an 8, and I didn't have to do any rucking, which is perfect for me. Yeah. Off the back of that, I think I got approached. I think I had an agent at the time. Yeah, Nick. I had an agent, Nick, at the time.
Well, things changed fast.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. I signed for. I wasn't EMI. I signed someone, and yeah, Nick was my agent at the time, and yeah, he got a few offers through. To be fair, and some realistic, some not. But yeah, that Esher came through. I think they'd watched me during one of the county games, and yeah, just the rest was great. But then I had to do I joined after I had a very short off season because I was playing sevens at the same time. This is a recurring thing because I didn't have a break for quite a few years. All the while with my sprained ankle.
Taped
up and carried on.
Yeah.
And I did my testing for Esher with that sprained ankle. So obviously the sprints were fine. I think I got 4.9 or something for the 40. And the gym stuff was absolutely fine. Then was it 3K or 5K we had to do?
I can't remember. Yeah. It was a long way for most people, that's for sure.
It was a 5K, and I had to do it with Dave Millard, who was just a machine, who was just running. He was running, he was going. He was a short squat going.
Dave Millard's a loose head prop for everyone listening, but the fittest prop that I've ever come across, I think.
Loose head prop with a 6-pack.
Yeah.
And I did that 5K with a sprained ankle, and it wasn't quick, but it was fine. And this had Elko shouting at me the whole way through, who was our S&C coach, he was more of a motivator than an S&C coach, let's just put it that way.
What do you mean by that?
So this is why I come back to the fact that I didn't know how much I weighed until later on playing. So Elko put me on a weight program. He sent out the pre-season program to everyone, and he goes, "Okay, weigh yourself." We weighed ourselves before testing and everything, and he gave me the first 4 weeks, and I didn't realise that he'd just given everyone the same thing. There wasn't any, personalised training for anyone. And I followed it to a T. I did everything he said. In the first 4 weeks, I think I put on either 1.5 stone or 2 stone. I couldn't run properly anymore. I felt so dense and swollen. I couldn't bring my arms up when I was running. And I just said to him that I was struggling. Okay, I'm getting too big now. He goes, "What are you talking about?" Well, I think this program you've got me is working too well, and it's not helping me in the rugby sense. He's okay. He basically told me no more weights for the next month. And he gave me a sweatsuit to go running in, and the boxers use. It took me 6 weeks to lose that weight and get back to where I was, and then we start on a lighter program afterwards.
Yeah, to be fair, if you look at weights, you put on weight. Yeah. So it's a tough thing because there's a lot of people, in fact, most people I would say, that want to put on weight and really struggle to do it. Oh. So what's it like being the other way round?
It's easy. Yeah, I'll tell you. I don't know. I wish it was the other way around, but honestly, I can lose or put on 5 kilos in a day, and that's just. I go for a run and lose 3 kilos. That's it. Natural.
So let's talk about running. You're quite well into the running game now, which, people look at me as a slightly larger gentleman and pray for my knees and things like that. How's your body holding up with the running?
It was a weird transition. So I didn't do the couch to 5K whole thing. I hadn't got the patience for that. I just went, right, I'll just go out and see what I can do. And, it was the beginning of lockdown. And I was like, let me just see how far I can get without stopping. Wasn't very far. but I'll keep going. Like, I'll walk bits, I'll do it then. And it slowly built up and up. I remember doing my first continuous 5K, thinking, yes, nailed it. So next thing was, can I get in under 30 minutes? It took me a couple of weeks. Yes, did it. Okay. So what's next? Let's do a 10K. And I made the stupid decision to do this before work in the morning. I figured, I don't, how much time do you need? Well, I can do this. And I live near a reservoir, so I figured that'd be a nice place to go running around. I probably got a stitch about 6 kilometers in, and then something else was hurting for the next kilometer. I remember getting my phone out of my pocket and emailing my boss at the time going, listen, I've tried to go for a run. I'm not going to make it back in time for 9:30 to start, but I'll be online when I get home. And that was my first attempt at 10K. I did it probably an hour 30, including all the walking. I was like, okay, fine. Let's get better at that. It took me a few months. I finally, it's on my birthday actually. It's my birthday that day. I did a 10K of my birthday in the morning, because you had to start work late those days. And I got it down to 57 minutes. And I thought, okay, that's it. I'm done. But I wasn't. I carried on, because obviously there's nothing else we could do apart from the gyms were shut. It was just like go running in the mornings, go for a walk in the evenings. And I did this thing. So I had a couple of mates I go for long walks with at the weekends. And we just each plan a different route, probably about 20K, about 4 hours of walking, just chatting between us, because that's what we were allowed to do because nothing was open. And I remember it was Mother's Day. Obviously my parents don't live in the country, so we had planned to go on the Sunday. They'd forgotten it was Mother's Day. And they both pulled out the night before. And I'd spent the Saturday I was watching movies, eating pizza, because I had this whole walk planned the next day. So I figured, not carb loading, but chilling out. So I was like, all right, screw you guys. I'm going to run a half marathon.
That seems like the sensible next option, yeah.
Pure petulance. There was no rhyme or reason behind it. There was no thought process. There was no just go for a walk by myself. I went, no, I'm going to run a half marathon. Now, context of that is that I'd had a free Saturday maybe 2 weeks before, and Rod's been on already, hasn't he? So yeah. Rod goes, oh, who's free who's free today? And I went, oh, I am. He goes, oh, do you want to come around later? I went, well, why not now? He goes, oh, we're not home yet. I went, all right. Well, I've got a few hours to burn. I'll just walk to yours. He goes, what do you mean? I live in North London. He lives in South London. He goes, yeah, it's 20K. It'll probably take me 4 hours. That's perfect. So I'll just take a spare pair of clothes. I'll see you there. And it took me pretty much bang on 4 hours to walk from North to South London. So okay. So I've done that now. I know the route, which I knew already, and it's pretty easy. And I was like, okay, well, that's roughly a half marathon, so I could run it. And I went, all right, guys, that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. So spent Saturday eating pizza, Sunday morning, got up at 11 o'clock, didn't eat, just got up, put my trainers on and left. And 2 hours later, I was running down Balham High Street, just singing to myself. I ran past the Costa thinking, I've got 100 meters to go.
What were you singing?
I think I had, is it Blaze of Glory? Not Blaze of Glory. What's that?
Yeah, okay.
I had that in my head. I was like, oh, you're so sad. I remember I got to the traffic lights at Balham High Street and thinking, okay, and I just checked when I was going down. I knew I only had a little bit to go, and I was like, 21.1, stop. And it wasn't that moment I realised that my ankles were absolutely on fire. Obviously, because I'd had nothing to eat. I don't actually get hungry after running, which is quite weird, but there was like salt. I was sweating so much, my clothes were stained and everything. I had a hat on, I had a jumper on because it was quite cold. It was in March. And I was just covered in salt and sweat. And I just ran into the Costa because obviously they give you a free glass of water, and I'm like, just keep filling the glass because I'm just drinking this. But yeah, that was my introduction to running, and I haven't done another one since.
Well, it's good to hear. It's good to hear anyway that, you didn't get injured when you were by the sound of it, which is kind of different to most of your rugby career. So Talk to me about the injuries that you picked up. Not necessarily all the individual ones, but just generally, like how injuries affected your rugby playing.
When I was younger, I had a habit of bruising my heel. So that would be the little smallest thing that would keep me out for a couple of weeks because I could not do anything on it. I had a spell of nothing, and then obviously the end of I sprained my ankles quite a lot when I was London Nigerian, and then the big one at Staines. So that's a funny story I had. So I obviously had the sprained ankle when I joined Esher, and it just kept swelling up, like issues. I don't know what was going on, and obviously I kept trying to see Carol to have a look at it. And we do little things, like gave me the exercises to do, but it was still swollen. You could see it was really puffy, and couldn't get to see Carol because Hallett was always on the bed, just a regular thing. And then one day he goes, right, I'm free. Let's try some ultrasound on it. I'm not going to lie to you. 10 minutes of ultrasound on that. The swelling was completely gone, and the pain that I'd had for months before was completely gone as well. I was like, I don't know. I said, I don't know what you've done, but you've fixed my ankle, and I'm fine. I have not sprained my ankle since that day.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then from that, the funny one was when I sprained my thumb, my right thumb. The reason it was funny because I taped it up and played the next week. Then I sprained my left thumb. And I don't know if you've ever had it. You need your thumbs in life. And
yeah, I used to do my thumbs a lot when I was in school. Actually, it was school time. But I do have experienced it. Yeah,
I couldn't put on a shirt to go to work. I couldn't do my cufflinks. It hurt. So because I couldn't iron my clothes or put a shirt on, do the buttons, I'd wear a jumper over the top, and getting the sleeves over my thumb was the most immense amount of pain ever. The most pathetic thing you could ever do. Basically took me out of commission. Somehow I kept playing with those taped up.
Yeah, you can carry on playing. Yeah, I mean, you can't dress yourself, but...
I've torn the ligament in my right wrist. The reason that's so relevant is because when I went I had injections and I went in for rehab in the hospital, and they asked me what kind of splint I wanted, what colour splint I wanted. Obviously, I picked the bright pink one because it just made sense. That's who I was as a person. It just, didn't want to stand out, but it just made sense to have it. And then the big one, I guess, obviously I've missed out my back. So there's a mixture here. I don't think I've ever confessed what I think actually caused it. I was having driving lessons at this point, and my instructor had changed from, I was driving Honda, I want to say Honda, no, it was a Yaris, it was a Toyota Yaris. And it was fine, whizzing around in that. There was loads of space. And then for some reason, he traded it in and got a little Hyundai. And I was like, okay, we're going to have issues here. But I could still get in it and kind of drive in it. And, I did a week intensive with him, and I passed my test in the week. But I hadn't appreciated that I'd been driving that car for 2 hours a day for 7 days straight, and then my test in the end, another hour. But I'd been in such a cramped position for so long that it had a bit of an effect. And then I played a game, I want to say it was a Friday night game, because it was Roslyn Park. And I remember making a tackle and just feeling this heat in my back. I'm like, getting up and just feeling like a slight bit of move, something shifting. And I'm like, something's not right. But I could run. I just couldn't sit still. I couldn't bend over. But running was absolutely fine. So I played on for a bit, and then, every time the play stopped, So I finally came off, and something's not right. Turned out I had a herniated disc, L4, L5. Now, did all that, had a little operation, epidural, fast joint injections, and then did the rehab for a couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, and then slowly built back up into playing again. And that's when we went to Italy. I made pre-season tour, yes. Big goal. Big goal, because I was injured, but I made it. Did the whole of pre-season absolutely fine. Felt great. We had great fun in Italy. Came back, and one of the first drills Elko had laid out for us was the tractor tyre flips. Yeah, so there's a few shuttles up and down, and then the tractor, on my first length of the tractor, I felt it go again. And I was like, okay, my back goes, all right, go see Carol. So I walk in, see Carol, I think Hallett's on the bed again. So she's like, you just lie down on the floor in the gym, I'll come and see you in a second. So after she's done with Hallett, she comes in, and I go, I think my back's gone again. She goes, okay, cool. I'm on the floor, she puts my foot in her hand, she goes, just press against my hand, your feet. I was like, I am. She goes, no, press now, and I am. So I realised that I've lost all feeling in my feet whatsoever. I can't move them. I'm like temporarily paralysed. Which she tries to look calm, but like she calls an ambulance straight away.
Oh God, I had no idea this happened.
So I'm obviously lying on the floor, back's absolute agony, but I can't feel my legs. I'm just lying there. And then the ambulance showed up pretty quickly, and they give me this gas I've never had before, and I am high as a kite very quickly. Just complete. I was like chesty came. I'm singing, everything, and just remember the people like just me laughing, going along with it, and then the running joke about how they were going to get me into the ambulance because someone's lifting me onto that bed.
Not someone, some people. Yeah.
Some people. So that was probably the worst one at the time, and then obviously came back from that pretty quickly. I had another bunch of like steroids and epidurals just to build up stronger next time. I've not had many issues with it since. But then the issue from that was I didn't have many breaks from playing. So it was always the season would go on, then we play county, then we play sevens. It was an ongoing process from the age of 21 until, well, must have been touching 30. I hadn't had my off season was probably about 10 days.
Wow. Almost like a professional player.
Oh, no, they get longer breaks. Right?
That's true.
That's the thing, though. Obviously, when you're playing sevens every other weekend, there's just like you're constantly going. And it was build up to my last season at Staines. I've gone back, and I suddenly I remember I was walking to work one day, and it felt like someone had shot me in the knee. Just pure sniper moment. I was in Covent Garden, I'm sitting on the curb just because I can't move. Just pure like...
What, had you stumbled or tripped or anything, or was it just normal movement and then pain?
Just normal movement and pain. I didn't know what it was, and then went to training, and again, running around absolutely fine, and then just again, I've caught my knee, the sniper's got me again. I just have to lie down, I can't move, and then 5 minutes later, I'm absolutely fine now. Something's really weird. So I remember saying, one of our physios, I saw him and have an MRI booked, and I've got holes in my cartilage, and I've got bruised bone from maybe halfway up my femur all the way down. And I remember the surgeon saying, "Are you not in constant pain all the time?" Like, no. And I saw the scan, and the amount of bruised bone is ridiculous. But it was like only if I caught it at the right angle is when I would get the pain, and where there was literally bone-on-bone contact. It was on my knee. But the issue with that was that was in maybe March or April time. And in June, July, we were flying out to Botswana for the sort of African Games, like the first round, playing for Nigeria. And I was like, I can't have surgery now. So I'd love to fix it, but I can't have surgery now because of that. So how about we wait until I get back? And to be fair, went out to Nigeria for a week or so, trained for a bit, went out to Botswana, I think we played 2 or 3 games. And yeah, I did not have a single problem with it. I did not catch it at that angle once. I mean, they got to sit out of training every now and then because I was like, yeah, my knee, got to look after it. As it was sometimes the ground was a bit hard. I was like, yeah, I don't want to fall over on this. My knee.
Don't want to risk it.
Yeah, don't want to risk it. They're prima donna these days. And yeah, came back, we had the most brutal surgery afterwards, and then kind of put any dent in playing sort of a higher level again, because there was no real coming back from that. And that was my break. I finally had a year and a half of not playing rugby, so there you go.
Yeah, but you did come back and play some more sort of social standard rugby after that. So my question is with that, because I think you played for quite a few clubs in the end. I'm not sure how many, but you can tell me. But I want to know, like, where did you feel like you were playing your best rugby and like you felt like rugby was, you know, going really well? What sort of time was that, would you say?
So my best ever year, it's a toss-up between my first year at Staines. That was probably the best personally I've ever played. Obviously, you know, second row scoring 20-odd tries a season is sometimes unheard of. But,
yeah. Rarely heard of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably, the return to Staines. Well, so Esher was fun, but I didn't really get a good run. Injuries and everything else, and just, you know, the way things work out. And then this return to Staines as a squad of players, we just clicked. It was a bunch of people who hung out together. You know, everyone went to each other's weddings. We got on really well. You knew everyone's game. And by the end of the season, we were winning games like 85-0, whatever. Just everything happened, just clicked. And it was, again, free running. I like it. No mauling, less of that. It was just, that was probably the best thing I played, and most fun I had. That was the old school ways. Like, it was a mixture of the younger boys coming through. I like to say I was in the middle, and then the older guys who'd played for the olden days, and you had a mixture of everything. And where we played really hard on the Saturday afternoon, and we played even harder on the Saturday night. And it was just an ongoing cycle. And that's the thing. When you stop playing, those are the bits you miss.
Yeah, for sure. Those are magical times when you find that with like I say, with a group of people that you're really close with, and everything's clicking on the field as well. That's special. So you kind of mentioned it there. You're not playing anymore. When was the last game you played?
Proper game, so I played in a tens tournament in. Where are we? I played in Flanders.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we've been in June.
Oh okay. So so you are still playing.
That was more of a vets tens tournament, I think. So I played in Dubai. I played in the vets tens there. We won it the year. What was it? 2019. That was pretty good for racing in Lagos. We won that one on the fact that we drew, but we scored the first try, so we won on count back, which is great against the all-star team. So.
Wait, you won because you scored the first try?
Scored the first try.
I thought it was the last try.
No. Because what they do is the vets final is on the main pitch, and it's in between the International Open. So, you know, you've got that sort of set to TV. So we can't have extra time in our game. So you get rewarded if you score first.
Fair enough. What's it like playing on the main pitch in the big show?
It's loud. As much. I've always been able to zone out. I don't hear people on the side when I'm playing, or unless, you know, you've tried to insult me and I've made my eye contact with you, because then you're my worst enemy. But in terms of like hearing people shout, it's all just blurred noises. It just meshes into one. It's just like, you know, when you're running, you hear the wind blowing. That's all it is.
It's like a white noise.
Yeah, it's unbelievable though. I don't know what the capacity is for the stadium, but it's just unreal. It took a moment. Obviously, the year before we lost in the final. The year before, and I remember the disappointment coming off, and I was like, "Boys, we all said next year we'll come back and we'll do one better," and we did. And the sort of elation of lifting the trophy, you get up to the top of the stand. I now get, you know, the whole John Terry full kit thing. I now get it. Even if I only played a minute at the final, but still, it was like, you know, the work you've gone through for the weekend. It's unreal. So, yeah.
So was that the biggest crowd you ever played in front of, would you say, or are there any others?
Probably would be. I think, no, the Nigeria games wouldn't have been as big, so yeah, that probably would have been the biggest crowd.
So how many caps did you get for Nigeria?
I didn't actually, I probably only got for 15s, I probably got 3 or 4, probably 3, I think. Yeah, it was only that official caps be that week. I was just unlucky, obviously, because that was my first intro. That was my intro into 15s, international 15s, and it was just before I had my knee surgery, and just politics kind of ruined any further participation. So it is, but I try and help create a pathway for the younger kids to come through now and play on, and any Nigerian eligible players want to give me a shout, I'm more than happy to talk them through it.
Yeah. So what is the process? And are you deliberately spreading a net, trying to find people, or are you just open to people coming to you?
Always. I think the Nigerian mentality is still there. Is that rugby isn't really isn't a job; it's a hobby, and the new generation of kids coming through. Luckily, their parents have grown up in the era where it is actually a job. So the younger ones are doing all right, but they're all, England eligible, the ones who live here anyway. And the politics came through. So we had a very strong core group of players who lived here. A few from South Africa, and a few played all over. And the issue is always funding. Other people don't realise is that a lot of the things we did when we played when younger were self-funded, so we paid a lot of our own way. And our manager, Mark Dean, probably, hope he doesn't mind me saying, but people don't know that he probably funded quite a lot of himself as well. So when the thing about Nigeria as well is that when we were doing what we thought we were doing well, because for a country that never played before to suddenly be taking part at this high level and competing against the Ivory Coast, who had been to the World Cup maybe 12 years beforehand. I think they had 1 or 2 players who played in that World Cup, so a bit older, but still, of good stock. They were all second, third division in France, so reasonable standard. And we were a team who come together the week before, no training camp, just off you go. We actually trained at my old primary school the week before in Lagos, and to compete at that level, we did well against Mauritius. The second half against Ivory Coast a lot better, and then we played Botswana as well. What happened afterwards was obviously people jumped in the bandwagon and think, okay, well, I want to be involved in this. So it became this whole thing about domestic players again, what we call the exiles, and it wasn't as much as, we want to increase participation of rugby in Nigeria. That's the overall game. But I thought, in my eyes, it was more of a cut off your nose, spite your face, because it was we want to promote players from here, so we let players from here play. And if you guys want to try out, you have to come here and actually try out for the team, which is fair if you give enough notice. But what I didn't think they appreciated is that everyone else has jobs, and you have to have notice to book holiday and go out there. So you need advance notice of when the trials are, not finding out the week before and going, oh, sorry, I've got to go. So they in my eyes, obviously, I wasn't planning on carrying on. There was I had a slight chance maybe I could, but my knee was no. And in my eyes, they made it very difficult for the others to carry on. So it didn't really happen. So every now and then you'll get a little bat signal going, oh, we need players for this. Well, we need more notice than that. But we've got a core, what we call the Stallions now, where I say the core of the 7 squad are Nigerian. The aim is to be able to have a 15-side again. And we've managed to get we've been in the Super Series for the last 2 years. It's growing. I think we didn't come last this year, which is great. You're playing against Samurai and everyone else, so it's tough. And they've got the pick of everything. Whereas we're not being selective, but we're saying the core will be Nigerian, but anyone's open to play. And the aim is to, put the players who are with us maybe in the sight of national selectors and go, listen, this guy has potential to play for the national side. Would you like to either watch him or invite him out for a trial? And that's what that's what I want to get going forward. But the hardest thing at the moment is like we're not self-funded. As you see, we've got a crowdfunding thing that's up as well, and the hardest thing is just getting that together, getting a squad together to train together, and it's expensive, but we'll get there.
Yeah. So is Nigeria playing tests at the moment, or are they not at all?
My understanding is there has been a temporary ban because obviously the rule about you can't mix politics and sport. So any time politics is brought into sport, the federation gets an automatic ban. And we had an issue where, because our sports federations are actually licensed,
right?
So you can buy the license for 4 or 5 years temporarily, and so you put a proposal through to how you're going to run the federation for the next whatever your term is, and then let's say like you, Tim, you have the federation for 2020 to 2024, and then someone else can come along in 2024 and go, okay, I now have the license. And then I think there was a point where some of the Nigerian sports weren't performing, so the government just went, right, we're taking it all back, and just scrapped everything. And then IRB went, well, you've interfered, so you're now banned and you can no longer enter.
I understand.
So I don't think at the moment we can operate as an international side. However, there have been stallions side, or black stallion side, operating under that banner, but it can't be classed as international.
Got it. Complicated.
Yeah, very. And it's a bit of everything. It's that whole, we're very proud people, and people want to be around when things are going well. And unfortunately, we tend to ruin it for others by doing that.
Yeah. Shame. Well, hopefully it goes well. Anyway, so almost retired, we'll say.
Yeah.
Still potentially could play if given the chance, but you are very much a supporter of the game now with your Saracens season ticket. So just tell me about how you got into supporting Saris and what the sort of experience is like there and why you did it.
I think it's more because I live around the corner, so not about a 20 minute, half hour walk around the corner. And that used to be part of my running route as well, around the ground. My sister's also a member of Shaftesbury Harriers as well, which they share the ground with. And I've been up there to train with them as well, like not sprint work, but throwing. I used to do shot put as well. So it's one of those things where a few of the other guys all live locally, and I just thought, none of us were playing anymore, and we were getting to that age where it's harder to keep in touch with your mates, and obviously life drags you apart. So we got this opportunity where once every 2 weeks is a home game, so you get to see your mates for an afternoon once every 2 weeks. So what's wrong with that? That's perfect. And you get a membership card. So if someone can't make the next game, you just pull the cards together and go, well, who can make it? Right, you take the card, you bring 2 other people with you instead, and then we'll meet you here for the next one. So it just works out. And I mean, last season was great, getting to the final. Fortunately, didn't quite make it, but remember the semi-final, the last home game, the semi-final against Quins was probably the best day out of all time. The Quins fans are interesting. Showing up to North London fully dressed, blazing everything. It's a hot day, and they came out in force, and they thought they were going to be loud and sing, and just the whole idea that Stonex has the atmosphere that day, it really did, and it was incredible. And yeah, like I say it, the rugby was the winner.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching it on the TV, and it just seemed like an incredible game. There was so much hype around that game, with the obvious rivalry between Saris and Quins. And Quins got off to a great start. I was still at the bar when that happened. I saw it on TV. Yeah, so it was a fun day out. So yeah, there was a lot of running. There was so many tries that day. It's incredible. But what are your hopes for this season?
Same again. It's just I think we start a bit better than did last year, and had a bit of a spell where we were letting games go in the second half. I think that's where you saw the missing Owen Farrell a little bit, the leadership, and we start the second half. I think we had a spell. It was a month where we lost the second half of every single game. But c'est la vie.
Yeah, interesting times. It's interesting that you say about just an excuse to see your mates, because as blokes generally we're pretty terrible across the board at just reaching out and saying, and we almost need an excuse sometimes to get out and do that. So it's good that you found one that involves rugby and all that kind of stuff as well.
It's just it's not just the rugby, it's more like you said, it's you get to chat, catch up, because we are rubbish. We are awful, and it's just some days you might talk about everything, some days you might not say a single word, but it's just knowing that you are just there, and that's just how it goes.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, let's move on to the Rugger Law Bore section, which used to be a tricky question about the laws of the game, but I've abandoned that for the time being.
Oh, I knew it as well.
At least. Because I just think referees' decisions are getting overanalyzed. They're getting, every single one's getting picked apart. And some of the things I like about the game are the fact that there's a bit of grey, there's a bit of interpretation in the laws. So I just wanted to see what you thought about that and the current situation with referees.
I think they have a very hard job. I can say that as someone who I made it my habit to try and be the ref's best friend.
That doesn't sound like you.
I wasn't a nose, but you know when they try and crack a gag, and you knew it was awful, and I didn't go as far as insult them. I go like, do better, but you do it in a funny way, and it's just you try and have a little laugh and a joke with them, and just make their day a bit better. And if someone is giving them a bit too much stick, you just defend them and go. I captain a few sides every now and then, but I always somehow got away with shouting to the ref. I think my big thing was I'd always, at the start of the game when you're in like the tunnel or whatever, I would always make a big effort to shake the ref's hand before I went out, just to show that it's a mark of respect for me. And they're going to have a hard day. It's bad enough like us shouting and swearing them on the pitch, let alone the people on the sideline just giving them everything. And in the lower levels, you think these are people who, obviously some of them are trying to make it further up, but these are people who give a Saturday do you a favour, and you're just giving them stick for 80 minutes, if not longer. Someone who I shall not name got sent off in the shower after a game because he just wouldn't let it go.
That's remarkable.
That counts. Yeah, that's a ban afterwards. We've had refs who've started, like the London Nigerians, the refs who are now, like JP Doyle, he refed us when we were in London 1. And you get so many who you never know where they're going to end up, or, who they're going to be later on. So I always think it's a mark of respect to just, unless you get the few that are a bit obnoxious who just are there for that power trip and you can see it, they're the ones you're like, okay, no, not today. But yeah, I think the main issue is like how long it takes for the decisions to come through, and that's where I think it's more people in the stadiums who can't see what's going on. How they should see watching on TV, you know exactly what's happening. It's fine, but the frustration comes through from that. But I'm the person who thinks it's more important to get a decision right.
I used to think that. Honestly, I'm less concerned about that now. I'm more concerned about the lack of flow in the game and like you say, the amount of time these are taking. In terms of just there's too many breaks in play, and that just adds to it. Obviously, the really important decisions around tries and things like that, and safety and foul play and things need to be got correct. But I just feel like there's too much at the moment.
All right. Well, the one rule about this one, the momentum rule on the forward pass, that one. I'm not having it. I'm not having it. If it's gone, it's gone forward. It's gone forward.
Yeah.
If it goes forward, it goes back. There's no it's flat. If it's on the line, I don't care if he's let go of it behind the line because he's running forward. It doesn't matter. If he's passed it forward, it's a forward pass.
So you want pitch geometry to be the ruler, literally.
Oh my God, justice. That's all I want is pure justice.
Okay, that sounds like a good place to end the Rugger Law Ball section. Let's move on to stash. What is your favourite bit of stash that you've ever received?
Have I got top three? I probably got top three. So
I'll let you have three. Yeah.
So the first one, I didn't actually get to play in it, but I own it. I bought it at an auction. It was the Esher breast cancer pink kit. You remember that one?
Spectacular.
I think Alex Ailing, before that day, I think I've still got it in my stash. bag.
As a Canterbury jersey, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the old school Canterbury before they went bust.
Yeah.
The good ones that fit properly before they tried to be too fancy. Second... See, this is tough. I'm going to put the Flare Bear kit as second, but the second year where the rainbow blended into the shorts, it's fantastic. So funny story about that is obviously we wore our kit all throughout, Venice, all throughout Italy, and we hadn't appreciated that obviously we're covered in rainbows. And the reason we worked out we were so well liked at one certain street was there was a couple of gay bars down there, and we would walk around these rainbows and went, they're just really nice people here. It's great. It's fine. Yeah.
You should describe the kit in full, because not everybody that's listening will have seen the glorious nature of these shirts.
It was all for Barty, who had a brain tumour, and we were raising money for the Brain Trust. And the main emblem was a Care Bear with a rainbow over it, Care Bear stare. And it had a cross going top from your shoulder down to your waist. There was a rainbow which then matched onto your shorts, went all the way around the thigh. There was a bit, not diagonal, but a bit curved round. It was a bit like, you ever seen the football shirts, the River Plate shirts, how they go across. It was a bit like that, but just, a massive rainbow, which is great.
And you've just reminded me of another thing there, actually. Did you used to do some kind of a dance at the end of games?
Yeah, we did.
You want to describe that?
I'm going to call it the Flare Bear Shuffle, but essentially it was just a couple of claps over the shoulder, under the shoulder, above the leg, under the leg, a spin, clap, and we got the crowd involved. And just because that's what it was. I said it's all about participation and getting the crowd involved and really selling the event as a day out. Number one would be, again, another pink theme. The pink and blue kit for racing. Now that's probably because that's the one we wore when we won it. So that's probably, and for some reason just pink stands out better. It was great. That'd be number one.
Cool. Okay, so what is your favourite kit of all time? So this can be any team from any era, any rugby kit whatsoever.
I'm going to be vain and say the white samurai Nigeria kit. That was slick.
Yeah.
I'm not saying a complexion thing, but it just looked great. It looked great, honestly. That wins it for me.
Happy days. And what about any awful kits? Any kits that you think should be burnt and never seen again?
Any of the old cotton shirts. Just obviously you don't realise at the time, but you're playing in the rain and just getting bogged down. Just didn't matter what style it was, any of them, just that material, never again. That should never be brought back in. Yeah,
you're right. You didn't realise at the time, did you? Because it was just what you did.
It was just normal, yeah.
But look back on it, it was horrific to play in. Jeez. Even whether it was raining or whether it was hot, because if it was hot, you were just sweltering. Who thought of that?
Hey, cotton traders did well out of it, so it's good.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll close up here. Before we finish, is there anything else that you'd like to add or say or anything at all?
Just obviously for me, if anyone would like to help out sponsoring the Stallions rugby team, that would be great.
Cool. And as you mentioned, you're really trying to help people get towards the Nigerian team. So if people are interested in that, how can they best get hold of you?
If you want to contact me, my handles are Jnr Harrison on Instagram and Twitter. So just drop me a message, and obviously on LinkedIn, Jnr Harrison. But yeah, I'd love to obviously help, promote that as much as possible. If someone else has any ideas to help out, that would be great. I'm always looking to just, me and the guys looking to boost it as much as we can. Great stuff, mate. It's good to see you. Good to have an excuse to catch up, That's what we need. As it is. So thank you very much. No, thank you. Thanks very much again to Jnr. I love these chats and often find out new things about people that I've known for a long, long time. And happy birthday! Today, this day, the day it's released on the 27th of November, is Jnr's birthday. So why don't you get on the social media and go and wish him a happy birthday.
all the contact details we mentioned are linked in the show notes below. I'll be back with you next week when my guest will be Mr. Fill Your Boots, Sean Phelan. Sean has been making games happen for over 7 years and is a grassroots rugby hero, so much so that I even advertise what he does at the start of every single episode. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss it. I'm leaving Indonesia tomorrow for a short time, checking again next week to see where I get to. Now, if you've enjoyed this podcast, you could rate and review on your podcast player, like, share, retweet, all that stuff. But what I'd really like is if you mention it to someone in person the next time you're down your local rugby club. So, until next week, get out and play. This episode was also sponsored by WebPie for all your WordPress website needs. Do you need a website, or do you know someone that does? Trust the rugby family and think of my company, WebPie, that's WEBPI, for your WordPress website design, build and support services. Find out more at webpie.co, that's WEBPI.co.